Bienvenue au Festival Montréal Baroque 2021. Welcome to the 2021 Montreal Baroque Festival. We're very happy to present a masterclass with IIlya Poletaev. Voilà un cours de maître sur l'improvisation, en fait, de IIlya Poletaev. IIlya, à toi.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. It's a great pleasure to be here as a guest of the Montreal Baroque Festival. Many thanks to Susie Napper for having me here and for the opportunity to work with these two wonderful students. So I'm looking forward to these performances. One thing that I should say right away is that I divide my time between playing modern piano and historical keyboards, and in the last few years I find myself playing much more modern piano. So it feels a little bit strange to be working with at least one of the students who is really specializing full-time in historical performance. However, I'm really looking forward to the opportunity. And here is Suren. Suren, would you be kind enough to introduce yourself?
Yes. Oui, bonjour, je m'appelle Suren et je vais vous interpréter la troisième toccate du premier livre de Fresco Baldi. My name is Suren and I'm going to play the third toccata, book 1 by Fresco Baldi.
Okay, bravo.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So I guess the first thing to be said is that you are someone who, for most of your life, has been playing modern piano and has only recently started playing the harpsichord. And the first thing I would say is that I think for the amount of time and instruction that you've had, that you've come remarkably far, because obviously the challenge in this music is not only instrumental, but also interpretative, because these are some of the most, especially for a modern pianist who is used to a very different dialogue with the printed page, these are probably maybe the most challenging pieces to interpret. Since this class is supposed to be about improvisation, probably this is a good moment to mention that these toccatas by Frescobaldi really push the limits of the kind of difference that exists between what one sees with your eyes and what one actually hears. And I'm sure you know that the most important guide that we have to decipher what's going on there is left to us by Frescobaldi himself, right? The 10 rules that he puts in his preface to the toccatas, explaining what are some of the points worthy of attention, what to do, and what not. And I would have to say that for the most part, I think that it's clear that you've absorbed them. So I guess the key thing about this music is that it has a very strong experimental edge, and that it endeavors in purely instrumental terms, as he himself put, to capture kind of the sense of immediacy and spontaneity of rhetoric that one finds in madrigals. So even when there is obviously no text, I think that it's very important to imagine some kind of possibility of text and most importantly, the contrast and variety of different kinds of affects, right, that he talks about. And so I would have to say that if we were to look into what you're doing, it would be probably to sharpen these differences and to make sure that each episode, each pass or effetto, as he calls them, really shines and stands out. And then, of course, there is the issue of instrumental realization, which can be challenging because, especially for a modern pianist, as both of us are, in at least some of the time, yeah. Right? Not only the communication with the harpsichord is different, obviously, we know that, but the issues of fingering and even physical approach are quite different. So this is maybe something also to discuss. So maybe we could go from the beginning. Sure. So Frescobaldi says that the beginnings of toccatas should be played slowly, yeah. and with arpeggiation. And this is, I guess, a quiet beginning, right? It's not something particularly dramatic. However, you may want to experiment with a slightly longer roll at the beginning. Okay, something that actually gives us maybe a little bit more resonance. It's great. So you have here 3 statements which are imitated, right? Is it possible to project even more the difference between each one in terms of one says, the other answers? So, So that each one of these is a very, very discrete gesture, and it feels like it's spoken in a different tone of voice because you're going in very different registers here. Yeah? You may want to contrast the second and the first one even a little bit more. There are obviously, this is partly why this music is so attractive, right? Is because there is no right or wrong way. There are many, many possibilities of giving an affect or creating an affective zone.
Yeah.
Try once more. And also, I think that even though obviously that the beginning doesn't have to have a regular sense of pulse or anything like this, but I think it's important to not to get lost too much right away at the beginning. Yeah. Okay, great. So the second bit, right, the second group of two bars, it has a slightly higher energy, right? So maybe it makes sense actually to start with a slightly more active kind of roll at the beginning, so to show right away that the energy is really different and that we're speaking a different text. And I think even more so when you get to 5, I think you can also invest in a more energetic kind of, slightly more contrasting statement, right? So that we really feel that these musical ideas are speaking to one another, that there's some kind of communication. Yeah. And okay, very good. So I guess then we experience very clearly that each statement kind of gets more and more energetic, and we create some kind of continuity. Frescobaldi says, as I'm sure you know, that it's okay, for instance, to take out pieces from these toccatas, and you don't have to play absolutely every episode as long as the connection is done in the same key. Yep. But as long as and this is actually quite a short piece, some of them are much longer. Right. So as long as we play the whole thing, we better make a statement that tracks here. Yep. Now, here at 7, we have an example of one of his rules, right? When he says that if you have 8th notes in one hand and 16th notes in another, that you want to play the 16th slightly in what we would call today in Lombardic rhythm, the first short and the other long, right? As he says, the first yes and the other no. Yeah. So maybe it makes sense to exaggerate this a tiny bit more here. Okay, not to make it static, but to actually hear clearly the two voices interacting.
So first short, second long, first long, second short.
First short, second long. So it's a ya dum bi da ti da, just favoring slightly these notes in the 16th. Yeah. That's right. And it's amazing, you know, it seems like such a slightly arbitrary rule. Why should it be short, long, and not long, short, whatever. But when you actually do it, the passage right away speaks in a very clear way. Now, the next thing is very, very vocal, right?
Yeah.
So let's try to really make an expressive entry with the soprano and make sure that it really stands out, that it's something very, very different. Great. I would say that there's just a small suggestion here. If you have in the bass, you have these quarter notes, right? Because it is later tied, so it becomes a syncopation. Maybe you want to have a tiny bit more articulation there.
Right.
And the same. So this is in the tenor, and then later in the bass. And I guess it's possible to read that as in natural in the bass, but that's up to you.
Yeah, I made them both. Made them both flat. You mean the one in measure 10 or measure 9?
The one in measure 10, yeah. I mean, that's fine, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the one who says this is how it should be. Just something to think about.
Yeah.
But I think that the poppy will give us another dimension, right?
Yes.
Okay. And sorry to stop. One other thing to think about, okay, if you have text, right, then, and this is partly how we can overcome the nature of this instrument. I mean, you handle many of its resources really, really beautifully, but still it's an instrument which has certain limitations, right? We always try to go beyond, and I think one way to go beyond this is really to invest in the feeling that there's a different text. So, and then the last time when it comes back to the soprano range, that it really does something different.
There's like a syllable on every eighth.
Yes, and also that there is some kind of thought continuity here. Right. It's not just an instrumental repetition, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, very good, beautiful. I guess because this passage features something like a left-hand solo, right, with sustained chords, it's tempting to hear it as something a little bit more virtuoso. Mm-hmm. But I'm just looking at the notes and I realize that it's actually spinning off directly of what was before. Yeah. So maybe you don't want to necessarily plunge headlong into it, but to make the connection apparent. And to make us really hear, and then it kind of gets going.
Sorry.
Okay, very good. He says that all cadences, when you approach them, should be played slower, and also that you want to stop on the last note of the trill. And I think even when we feel that there's a lot of momentum that is accumulated, I think it's still good to do that, because otherwise sometimes we end up sort of running into a cadence and it becomes a kind of a wall.
Right. Right.
Okay. Could we do it once more and then just go on a little bit?
Yeah, I'll just do from the...
right. Okay, very good. I think here, I know that we are running out of time slightly, but I would just say a couple of things. I think, first of all, here, there's quite a lot of imitation. And I think that when the imitation is consistent, it actually gives you more opportunity to be flexible with tempo. If in some other cases you have to be taking a little bit more care to make us understand the tactus, here it's very clear what's going on. So you can invest even more in the exchange, in the rhetoric of give and take of different words and different thoughts being passed on from one singer to another. Okay, perhaps with greater variety. And then, when at 16 this contrasting passage comes, that should be a real shocker.
At 16,
okay?
yeah.
That's a sort of a seconda pratica moment, right? When you have B natural and G against the C, and that I think should be really very shocking. Perhaps we shouldn't pass that moment by. Okay, very good. Maybe you want to take a risk and play it even slower there. Because at this point, I think two things perhaps we want to make happen. And in 16th, when you have ti-da-tom, ti-da-tim, pa-da-tom, what happens underneath in the alto and the tenor is basically a diminuendo. Tim, pa-da-tom, pa-da-tim, right?
Yeah.
And then there's this very strange moment of tension and sort of almost like things get very, very awkward. So maybe just try it again. Okay, very good. And I think that also in these moments, the speed of your arpeggiation is really critical, because with that you can really show the changing energies and the changing impulses. So, for instance, if you are feeling compelled to snap back into tempo in the middle of 17, then you should attend to what happens in the right-hand chords.
Right.
Okay. And then at 18, the tenor starts a very, very different thought, right? So maybe also a little bit of time would be good there. So we really feel that a different idea is coming along. I would risk to take even more time, yeah. Yeah, these very good, bravo. The way that he chooses to notate trills on the page looks unbelievably square. Anybody who has ever played it, I mean, there's 2/16 and then 4/32. Of course, that's not what we want to play. And it's also sometimes, especially if one is not too comfortable with the touch itself, can be a little bit tricky to play. I would say the most important thing is not to have a set speed in mind,
right,
and to make sure that we still hear, as he actually says at the end of trills, to stop very slightly on the last note, so that we actually hear the interval going into the next one. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't. You don't. It's not perhaps necessary to make a big whole at the end, but just to acknowledge a little bit that we hear that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm being told that we should probably move on, but bravo.
Thank you.
I realize that now the disinfecting part comes.
Yeah,
it's okay. Let's do that.
Some nice
Let's
noise.
do our duty.
Yeah. I'll try. Oh, I actually don't have to make any.
I don't think you have to work too hard here.
Yeah.
Great.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bravo.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
You want to introduce yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Alors bonjour, mon nom est Steve Bergeron et je vais vous interpréter le tombeau de charbonnière de Jean-Henri d'Anglebert.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, bravo. Beautifully done. Fantastic. So I guess, as far as I'm concerned, this is one of the most challenging pieces in the harpsichord repertoire.
Yeah.
And I think that it's challenging for several reasons. And all of them, I think, have to do with the way that it is heard by an audience member, right? There are so many ambiguities that are embedded in this piece. First of all, there's the ambiguity of meter, right? It's supposed to be in 3, but we hardly feel that there is anything that affirms actually a clear 3, right? There is also the ambiguity of melodic in tonal direction, right? It's really, I think it's an amazingly beautiful metaphor for being sort of suspended between heaven and earth, right? That you're sort of floating there and not quite sure where it's going. I mean, it's clear and it's very masterfully put together. So in that sense, it's very controlled, as of course all of Danglebert is unbelievably controlled. But the span is so huge that to carry sort of this vocal line along and to make sure that the continuity is never lost is very difficult. And I would say that I think you've done really, really well. Maybe I have a few thoughts just to enhance even more this illusion of vocal line that is really, really speaking. I guess in the third ambiguity is that because it's such a richly ornamented texture, right? But the tempo being so slow, right, makes us listen and turn to different kinds of events in the bass, in the tenor, in the treble, and it is easy to lose a little bit the sense of priority, right? If we were playing it, if this was a concert piece, for example, right, with a solo voice or air de cour with lute and voice, it would be very easy to understand how the parts relate. So we're here trying to create a really complex illusion, and it's really difficult. Okay. I would say this. I would try even harder to use your imagination to hear the inner shapes of long notes and where exactly the sound would go if you were actually playing it on an instrument or singing it with a voice that could actually do something to a note, right? For example, at the beginning, that's sort of the first mega gesture, right? And if we can get that as a really unified thing, then maybe the rest could start flowing a little bit easier.
Okay.
Okay. You want to try it? If I may just say something here, this is why the harpsichord is so difficult, right? There's one note out of place breaks the illusion. So for me, this instrument is very speaking, right? It's not a huge, unbelievable long cloud of resonance. So if you delay the bass by so much, the tenor voice, when you go down, then we lose a little bit the sense that it's one gesture. Just once more, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay, great. And I think that here, this would be, I mean, I completely agree with what you're doing in the sense that you're trying to keep actually pretty steady tactus, which I think is a good thing. But I think here it's important that we understand that it's a breath. Right? Not to go right on, because it's kind of a semicolon if you wish, yeah? And one other question, is it possible for all the beautiful vocal ornaments, the tremblement, the porte de voix, to give even more shading with over legato?
Yeah.
Okay, so that we really get, at least for that moment, an illusion that there's something. Yeah. Let's do it once more.
Okay.
Right, beautiful. I thought the beginning now worked a little bit better. Now, it's really a minefield because every detail is so striking, so audible. If you have 2 porte de voix in a row, I would make sure that they're a little different that in terms of length. And then this beautiful ornament. Maybe you don't want to play too fast.
Okay.
Okay. I would actually personally articulate to have 4 and 4 so that it has a little bit more spoken quality. Because the tension in the line is very big, and if you release it like this, then we lose a little bit continuity. Yeah. How about we go? Is it okay to go from somewhere in the middle of bar 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, sorry to stop. I guess this something that happens perhaps in almost any piece of Baroque music. There's a long note and then a string of short notes, right? And the relationship of energy is something that registers, right? So we have the Stimmung, so the mood, right, is very sad. And I think if you go too fast or too eagerly, we lose something here. I would just try not to be too much of a jerk. Yeah. And is it possible to feel that there is some kind of resistance in that? There are fast notes, but they're not. It's not a run. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Shall we try once more?
Yeah.
It sounds great. Right, great. I think now it communicated better. That I guess the hardest thing is to not lose it when you go. So that still goes to that long-awaited first downbeat. That actually sounds like a downbeat for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess I would. It's a question of incredibly intensive listening. I would do everything I can to listen to the relationship of, because there's a step of the quarters, right? And then there's a response of shorter values, like to really listen to how they talk to one another. Maybe somewhere from middle of bar 4, would that make sense?
Yeah.
Something like this, yeah? Right, great. I guess the challenge here, I love this bit, the beginning of the second half, because this is where you really feel that the lower voices are accompanying. I mean, this is not organ music at all, but it's a little bit like a récit, right? This is a solo voice. I guess the challenge is to make sure that first you are hovering around E and G, right? And then E and D, and then at the beginning, sort of E, D, F sharp, okay? And then it starts rising.
Yeah.
And to make sure that through also the intensity of the ornaments that you communicate, that it's more excited, it's actually a vocal crescendo, right? Very, very impassioned. So it felt maybe a tiny bit calm. Okay? So, and also here, I would try to, the very long step, I would try to keep a little bit more. Yeah? Maybe second ending, or just where it begins.
Yeah.
Right, and this is a moment where it's, I guess, it's also a semicolon, right? And then it really opens up. I guess this is as climactic as it gets in the piece, right? When the piece starts, it's very difficult for anybody to hear this as an upbeat, right? At the beginning, this big roll, and then, but here, actually, I think we can experience that. The beginning of second half. And I would maybe try to get it out a tiny bit more clearly.
Okay.
All right? Can we try to do this once more and go on? Okay, great, fantastic, beautiful. Just a couple of very small observations that have to do with sound. I guess in this piece, we want to make sure that absolutely every little bit of resonance is available to us. So for instance, when you play at 13, this little it sounds just a tiny bit maybe dry.
Okay.
Without maybe lifting the key all the way.
Yeah.
In a tremblement. And then again, these I guess little tiratas. If they're too easy, if they sound maybe slightly disruptive of the energy that you're trying to create. Of course, there is a sense of fall, but maybe not so easy.
Okay.
Okay. Is it, if that makes sense? Would you mind trying again for maybe 12?
Yeah.
And then it's just this is small thing, but when you're playing a tremblement or something like this, maybe while still really feeling the string and the contact with the string, maybe try not to press as much at the end of the.
Yeah.
I know it's hard. This is so. Exactly. And great. I would say beautiful. Bravo. I would say that especially in a moment like bar 24, okay, I think our ear wants as much a sense of the unique in the energy of every ornament that you play, because ultimately there's going to be the one note that there's a cadential tone that is really decorated, and that's where we are going finally after all this. So. But if you really want to carry the vocal line, I would just be really, really, really demanding that no energy is the same in the ornament, right? Especially that downbeat, I think probably not too long. And then one last thing that I was going to say is that I agree, of course, that there has to be a little bit of inégalité. But if it's too close to the sharper rhythms that are notated in the piece, maybe that's too much.
Okay.
Like for instance in bar 1, we didn't talk about that. If you do an inégalité, can it be very, very lazy?
Okay, yeah.
Just so that it's another color in the rhythmic palette. Maybe we should go from something like 21, because it's a good moment to finish the piece. And then right there, there's the downward arpeggio is made by the bass, right? Can this have a little bit more unity as a closing gesture, and then we go on?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah? Great. Maybe once more. I think I know that what you wanted to do, and I think you can do it even more successfully.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say, especially in the bass in 22, I would be careful not to get stuck. Pom, 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 pom. To feel the ornament as part of the larger swing, rather than just a local detail. Maybe right there, actually, is a good moment. Right, exactly. Beautiful. Yeah. I guess this is the moment for us to close. Thank you so much for playing beautifully. Thank you so much for Suzy Napper's invitation. And also thanks again to Suren for his participation and to Festival.
Un grand merci. IIlya, thanks a lot for IIlya.
Thank you, it was a pleasure.
And the others for coming to play.